Coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by HelloFresh. Tired of setting unrealistic New Year's resolutions? This year, do things differently and regain control over your food choices with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is not only America's #1 food delivery kit, but they can also help you with your New Year's goals. Getting a home-cooked meal on the table every day is an accomplishment worth celebrating. Let HelloFresh help with 50 weekly menu and market items to choose from, so you can think less about what's for dinner and more about achieving your goals. HelloFresh has more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit, so you know you'll be getting something delicious. Something we love in racing is saving time, and HelloFresh has you covered with a wide variety of quick and easy recipes, including 20-minute meals, easy cleanup, and low prep options. And to top it all off, everyone loves surprises, right? Well, with HelloFresh, we got you covered there too. Go to HelloFresh.com and use the code LAND16 to get up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. That's HelloFresh.com. Use code LAND16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Welcome back to Daytona. Now it's really the lead up and the build up to the Rolex 24. Obviously, last weekend was the Roar before the 24, a race to set the grid for the 24 Hours of Daytona. Now is the preparation time for the 24 Hours. Unfortunately, today really hasn't been much of a representative day when we're talking about the conditions that we're going to experience on Saturday and Sunday. It is supposed to get brutally cold here at Daytona. Temperatures are supposed to be around the freezing mark. Now, if you're in the European side of things, it would be 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very cold. And with the humidity in the air, there's going to be blizzards falling out of the trees. And believe it or not, or iguanas. That's a fun fact that Kyle continues to let me know about. Today wasn't very representative of those temperatures, obviously. It's, not cold today, but it certainly is cool. It's also been raining virtually the entire day. It hasn't been a true gully wash, if you will, but it's just kind of been misting throughout the day. The track has gotten slippery and slidey most of the day, and again, lap times, lap speeds, hard to be representative here. Pato O'Ward in the number 81 Dragon Speed LMP2 actually led the opening day's practice session overall, ahead of not only the P2 cars, but also the DPIs. So from that perspective, it's hard to go off of who's quick and who's not. Some big news. Broke midweek. I think it was Sports Car 365 that broke it first. The Corvettes and the BMWs, those are the 2 brand new GTD spec cars this year. And we have been following the story of their balance of performance. And they haven't gotten it right yet because they made some more adjustments post-Roar before the 24, and those adjustments were run today. Both cars got 10 kilograms of more weight. So Corvette and BMW running heavier than they did last weekend. There were also some aerodynamic changes. The cars are allowed to run less wing now. The big concern from the BMW teams and the Corvette teams is straight line speed, and they haven't had that. So that's been a big key, is trying to get those cars quick in a straight line so that they can compete with everybody else. The other thing is there was a fuel capacity change with the BMW. I think they lost about 4 liters of fuel capacity. The Corvette actually gained some in the last BOP change before the Roar qualifying race. So it's an ever-changing process. Hopefully this is the last BOP change so that the next couple of days everybody will kind of be on the same page. But again, we don't know because it's been raining all day and practice time has really kind of been limited. Some teams choosing to really not hammer very hard today, truth be told. Some things were announced by IMSA themselves today. Not anything groundbreaking, but we learned today that the new prototype category, which we currently know as DPI, will be a merger, of course, of LMH, the cars from the World Endurance Championship, as well as LMDH, which are the second generation Daytona prototypes. That class, which will run both of those cars together, will be known as Grand Touring Prototype, or to us boomers, GTP. Again, it's just marketing, right? It's just convention. But I think it's definitely heartwarming because most people consider the golden era of prototype racing in this country to be GTP, Grand Touring Prototype. You think of the Nissans, you think of the Bud Light Jaguars, you think of all these great cars over the course of Grand Touring Prototype, the Toyotas from Dan Gurney's All-American Racers. So certainly going throwback with the name is the right call, I think. The only thing is we now have three classes that sound very similar. So you got GTP, you're going to have GTD Pro, and then GTD AM. So I'm going to continue with the naming convention of, going forward anyway, that prototypes, I'll use a GTP name, right? It's probably less confusing. But then when you go GTD, the GTD class, I'm going to split it, call it Pro and Am, like I've been doing. I think it's easier. It's probably more marketable because a lot of people go, what the hell's a GTD car? Speaking of what the hell a GTD car is, unfortunately we didn't get too many driver interviews today, but we were able to jump in on a Lexus Vassar Sullivan press conference today. And you may have actually seen, if you're on Twitter and you follow Vassar Sullivan or me, that they actually tweeted out that I got to talk to Kyle Kirkwood and Jack Hawksworth. Those are two names that you guys will be very familiar with. I asked a lot of the same questions that you probably already know I've asked a lot of the other GT drivers, but since we hadn't had a perspective from A, someone from the Lexus team, or B, especially in the case of Jack Hawksworth, someone who has been running these GT cars over and over and over again for years and years and years, got a lot of experience. So Jack especially, it's good to hear him talk about this as a pro GT driver. So we'll throw it over to them. I'll wrap the report up for today, and we'll look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting time, to be in IMSA. One big GT class this year with a subcategory, which is obviously GT Pro and normal GTD. But yeah, big move away from obviously previous years when we've had two different types of GT car basically with the with the LMs and the GT3s. So I think it's exciting. We've got one big field. Obviously, from my perspective, to race in the GT Pro class, I'm excited about that. Some really good competition in there. I'm coming back to Daytona. I feel like we've had a good off season. I feel like we're in a good position here to go have a good run. So very excited about it all, and I think it's a win-win really for the category to have so many more cars out there, and you're just going to see an interesting race with GTD cars mixed up with the GTD Pros. No reason why a GTD car can't even be ahead of all the GT Pros depending on how the race unfolds. So just I think it makes it a little bit simpler to watch. You got all the same type of car, and expecting good things this weekend.
That's the real big question that everybody's been talking about it in both Pro and GTD is how do you think that class mix is going to affect the race? Are you at all concerned that maybe a GTD car is going to maybe cause trouble for a Pro car, when you guys are racing for a class win, but you guys are running the same pace, especially at the end of the race when all the pros get in?
I mean, there's no doubt that there's going to be inter-class mixing and contact because they're just running the same speed, right? You're all mixed up on the restarts, and the start of the race is going to be GTDs ahead of GTD Pros, so there's definitely going to be, you're definitely going to interfere with each other's race. There's no other way around that. It will 100% happen. It's very similar to in Europe. In Europe, you go to Spa, there's 60 cars, but there's a Pro class, a Pro-Am class, an Am class, so it just feels normal to me, in all honesty, like to have all the GTs running around the same speed. I think it's good. But yeah, it's going to change the strategy for us, that's for sure.
You did actually run a Lexus over in Europe, correct? I believe the Spot 24. Did you run the rest of the season? I can't remember.
I ran a couple of sprint races over there in the Lexus, so a couple of the GT World Challenge sprint races, but never one of the longer races.
So do you think that gives you a little bit of advantage, you and the other drivers who have that kind of experience? Is there an advantage to that?
No, I mean, not really, I would say, because the racing's so different over here with having prototypes and P2s and P3s. There's so much more going on, right? So I think really in this series, experience in the series is important, and I've got a ton of that. So I feel very comfortable with it.
Kyle Kirkwood. First, we're going to talk about your current job, what you're doing right now. Lexus GTD. You've been in this the last couple of years. I've talked to a few other guys who have done like Road to Indy, IndyCar. What is the big driving difference jumping from a light, nimble, open wheel, open cockpit car to this GT car with traction control and ABS and steel brakes? What is that transition like as a driver?
Well, everything just happens a lot slower, right? You get into a big, heavy sports car, not as much downforce, not as much power, even though the weight is much higher. It's not very forgiving, actually. So you get in the car, you have a slide or something, you lose tons more time than you do in an Indy Lights or an Indy car. So it's actually quite nice to come over here and do this because you have to be so precise with everything, and driving with other drivers where you're trying to set up the car that's equal for all of us is super important, and it's just an enjoyable race. And this weekend racing at the 24 is nice because you just get that edge on everyone else that you'll be racing against the rest of the year because you're starting off so soon and getting into this race mode. It's no longer off season. You're getting ready. You're getting car fit. So it's enjoyable being here. Okay, big class this weekend. That seems to be the talk of the town, is that you are not only going to be racing in your class, you're going to be racing 30 plus other GT cars. How do you prepare for that, and as a driver, and what are you guys kind of expecting this race to be like? Because really, you guys seemingly are going to be mixed the entire 24 hours. There's going to be a lot of strategy involved, right, back and forth. You don't really want to be, I imagine we won't want to be further back than 15th because then you're just kind of just stuck in traffic, right? It's really tough to pass around here as it is. But yeah, so a lot of it's going to be strategy, just trying to stay on the pointy end of the field for the entire race, make sure we don't go laps down. But I mean, as everyone knows, it's 24 hours. You're going to want to get through 18 hours and then kind of go racing from there. So yeah, just keeping the nose clean throughout the night, keeping the car clean, and making sure we don't have any hiccups.
Okay, let's talk about the job you're going to be doing in about a month. I know you got in the car for the first time, but I want to go back and tell me a little bit about how the deal with AJ Foyt Racing came to be full-time for this year in IndyCar.
Well, it actually happened within just a couple days because I was locked under contract with Andretti, and once there became a point where they knew that they couldn't facilitate a ride for me, they said, go find your options, see what you can find here in the next few days. So they released me from that contract, and we got the deal done we had kind of a handshake deal within, I think, 2 or 3 days, and then we were able to sort out the contract and everything in the weeks coming before we announced. But it all happened really quick. I'm pretty sure Larry said that he was a bit surprised that I was actually a free agent for a little bit. So we called him. He never called us. So there was that time period where we kind of just calling everyone, and we liked what Foyt's trying to do. You know, they're trying to build back a great team. I've been in situations with teams where I'm kind of the number one driver and building everything and developing everything. So it seems like a really win-win situation. We had a great test just over a week ago in Sebring. That was our initial test, and team's working out great people around me, and we're getting really geared up for the season and really happy with everything.
So it's no secret, and maybe some people don't know this, you've virtually won a championship in everything you've ever competed in. Mm-hmm. What is a realistic expectation for this year in IndyCar with a rebuilding AJ Foyt team?
Yeah, you know, I've been asked that question a lot. It's kind of like, what are your expectations for the year? Well, I'm not really sure. You go into it. There's drivers in it. I said this in the press conference the other day. Tony Kanan's been racing IndyCar longer than I've been alive. So there's guys with so much experience today that I'm coming in as a rookie. I'm trying to learn everything. We're trying to develop a good race car, and so there's a lot of variables that come involved. So I think it's really just going to be situational on how we do per weekend. If we feel like we can do this on this weekend after we go to testing and we see what the car can do and what I can do, then I guess it's going to be per weekend. We're going to be able to tell how, I guess I'm saying is it's going to be very situational on what I think I can do personally within. So it's a bit confusing, right? But I'm not going to be able to put like a position or something like that right now to be like, oh, we should finish 8th at this race. That's just not the case.
So this is, I guess this is day 4 at the Rolex 24. again, it's kind of unfortunate that we can't really glean too much more information out of today's running. There's been a lot of running, but not a lot of it valuable from the perspective of thinking, how are we going to predict this race? How's it going to play out? That's a tough thing, and that's the one downside I would say to the Roar being a qualifying race, is that it kind of sucks a little bit of the wind out of these days before the Rolex, because it's just practice, and especially if the weather's bad like this, there's not much to talk about. There will be some stuff to talk about tomorrow, and if you've watched the video this long, I'm going to give you a little treat. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., Ford Motor Company is announcing that they will be joining the GTD class with a Ford Mustang. And hopefully we'll be able to see that car tomorrow. We'll be here. We'll be covering it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next video.